Bases dropped in a new round of SDH AM. John, hear you there. Thanks for dropping by. Oh, I got to turn that on. Okay, so it is Tuesday Thoughts, and it is your normal round of stuff. We got a lot of different places to go, a lot of different levels to keep an eye on this morning. So here's the rundown as we have it. Coming up in just a little bit, traditionally, as it is going to be Kayce White. So KCD, we'll find out where she be. We'll find out about Thanksgiving. We'll find out about what she wishes to discuss. It is college. It is NWSL. A lot of upsets in Division I that we can get into this morning. So there's that. You've got NWSL Championship. You've got Major League Soccer. So wherever KCD wishes to go, we will go. She's coming up here in about 8 minutes. Then 9:40, Kaylor Hodges from the USL show is going to be joining us, and we're going to talk about the USL Championship, as well as teams that have started to make their roster decisions coming into the 2026 season. And we'll find out where folks might be drifting and things like that. If there are any surprises on the folks that have been jettisoned by their clubs, no contract renewals, no option years picked up, those kinds of things. So we'll get into that with Kaylor coming up at 9:40. 10 o'clock, and this is cool. Truett McConnell has been making a big run in the women's side, the NAIA. So we're going to catch up with head coach David McDowell in between days as he gets ready for their run to nationals. Next step for them starts beginning of next week, and they're going to be in the national tournament, to the national rundown, the national finals in the NAIA. So we'll catch up with Coach McDowell at 10 o'clock. And then after that, it is the beginning of our series looking at all of the different host cities that are attached to the World Cup in 2026. And our first visit is Toronto. And we get to catch up with Sharon Bollenbach, the executive director of, now this is Sharon's full title, Executive Director, FIFA World Cup 2026, Toronto Secretariat, City of Toronto. And Sharon has a deep background in a lot of the big ticket items in Toronto, FIFA U20 hosting, Special Olympics, Canadian Olympic Committee, Skate Canada. She is the recipient of the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal and the King Charles III Coronation Medal, representing her country. And so we'll catch up with Sharon coming up at 10:30 and find out what's going on as Toronto continues their movement on the field, off the field, construction, infrastructure, transportation, all the things. What we want to do with that series is we want to let you as an audience know how each host city is tackling all of their different issues. And if there's any commonality when it comes to bureaucracy and budgets and infrastructure and how much they're spending and what their concerns are as they get ready for the world coming in 7 months. It's not that far away. And so what we are efforting to do is catch up with each particular host city, find out about their bureaucratic relationships, find out about where things stand. Toronto specifically is expanding BMO Field by 50%. So FIFA said, okay, if you want events, you got to expand BMO. It has been something that has been talked about a lot in Toronto over the last decade, really. And so they're now moving BMO's capacity to north of 40,000. I think it's going to be pushing 45. And so what you're looking at now is how is Toronto tackling what's going on as they get ready for the World Cup in 2026. So that's the rundown that we got this morning. So efforting one of the busiest folks around KCD. So we'll find out what's on KCD's mind. We will catch up with Kaylor Hodges. We're going to catch up with Coach McDowell. And we're going to catch up with Sharon Bollenbach in Toronto at 10:30. So that's the rundown this morning. And tomorrow, just to let you know what's going on, it's hopefully Tyler before he has to do all of his Thanksgiving duties. We're going to catch up with Life University on the men's side. Coach Palma, we're going to catch up with him at 10 o'clock. And then Nico Moreno is going to join us at 10:30. And we will that'll be your Wednesday. Remember, no show on Thursday, but we'll be back on Friday to break everything down as LifeU on the women's side will join us off the top. Then our friends from Major League Soccer join us at 10, and Nino Torres will join us at 10:30. So the Thursday show not existing has split the power hour to Wednesday late and Friday late. And then we'll keep you posted on everything else that's going on as well. And let it roll from there. So it's a fairly stacked show on a bunch of different fronts. And so it's great to see everybody. Morning pars, and we'll see what's going on with everyone as we go here this morning. Opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Let me see if I can do this. There's a new layout, so I'm probably a little slower on the draw than I traditionally am. So it's all of the activity that is attached. So it is anything and everything going on that we're here. And I've got a new layout that I'm trying to sit here and juggle. And is it going to be punching a button? Is it going to be doing this? So literally, in the old days, I double clutched on the opening kickoff. So in the old days, the layout was a certain way. And now with program advancements and things like that, you end up with new graphic layout, new buttons you got to push, all these kinds of things. And so I'm trying to navigate that. So if my button pushing is a little slower than normal, we'll get into that coming up as well. And you'll see me make mistakes as the new layout is here. We had the new layout last night on Soccer Over There. And so that's kind of where we are. So me pushing buttons is always going to be dangerous. And so that's your QR code for Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com right there. Then you hit that QR code and you go there. You buy out the store because we want you to buy out the store. But you can buy out the store at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com for 15% off. Use the code soccer down here 15 at checkout. You get 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10%, reinvest it in youth games, youth initiatives, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. All right. So when Kayce comes in, I'm going to get her thoughts on this too. I don't know if you saw this, but in the Women's Super League, the English Super League. In English Super League play, you had literally a headlock that happened in one of the matches. And so the player who really had a nice 2-point takedown, by the way, it was a nice 2-point takedown, but you don't do that in soccer, first and foremost. So now, I don't know if you saw the video or not, but Roesha Littlejohn, she is now going to be facing a rather large fine and probably a suspension because of, let me see if I can, nothing like an app that doesn't want to behave. It's like, okay, so I want to read the story, but then it doesn't want to give me the story to read. So, all right, so it was a red card against Hannah Kane. So you had Crystal Palace. You had Leicester and Crystal Palace going at it, and you had Eagle star Roesha Littlejohn in a heated exchange Sunday night with Hannah Kane from Leicester, second half. So you had a part of time in the second half. You could see Kane being grabbed around the upper body and basically getting headlocked and thrown to the field. The clip obviously got a large reaction, and they referred to it as both shocking, dangerous, and WWE style as it went across the 280-character app. So you're wondering why Roesha Littlejohn would have this kind of a decision and why you would want to do something like this. So since we're in opening kickoff, and KCD is in fact here, we're gonna ask KCD if she has ever been in a situation or seen a situation like we had in the English football. So KCD.
Hi.
I don't know if you saw this from Sunday night, and we're in opening kickoff because John is still trying to figure out new technology and pushing buttons and everything, so I'm a little slow on the draw this morning. I don't know if you saw what happened in the Crystal Palace-Leicester match.
I did not.
Okay.
I did not.
Basically, what happened was this. You had one player for Crystal Palace as a part of a coming together of players trying to gain possession of the ball. Basically put the opposing player in a headlock in play, like literally a headlock.
Okay.
And then bulldog them to the ground over a player that was on the ground. And of course, then you have the big coming together and you have the big to do or anything like that. So it was an overly physical moment where literally it was a headlock and a hip toss that throws the opposing player on the ground. So footage shows Olivia McLaughlin, the Leicester player, already on the ground, moving and shielding her head against the aftermath of the flashpoint. Littlejohn immediately shown straight red, violent conduct, reducing Crystal Palace to 10. Came minutes after, a goal made it 3-0, putting the contest beyond Leicester's reach. And so Crystal Palace taking control, all that kind of stuff. And so now it appears that Rachel Littlejohn is going to be facing a large suspension because of a headlock and a bulldog takedown in game. Have you ever been a part of anything like that? Have you ever seen anything go off the rails like that in calling a match, coaching a match, anything like that? I don't know what would compel an individual to sit there and put an opponent in a headlock and then hip toss them down on the ground as a part of your winning 3-0. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. Have you ever seen anything like that in any game that you have been a part of whatsoever?
Luckily, I have not. I've never been a part of it in a game. I've never called it. I've never coached against it. I probably have only seen what everyone else has seen, which is some pulls on the hair that go viral and things like that. I'm glad to hear that they're getting on it swiftly because there's just no place for it from a violent conduct perspective on the field. So I did not see it yet, though. So I am unaware that happened, but I've never been a part of something like that.
I don't know what compels any player of any level to sit there and want to put an opponent in any kind of a headlock, a hip toss, and just throwing him down the turf. I mean, we've seen it in heated rivalries and things like that. No, there's no excuse for it, but I didn't know if that is the most recent oddly violent tactic behavior that was shown in a match over the weekend. I just wanted to double check with you and see if you'd had anything go off the rails like that physically in any kind of a match that you've been a part of. I just wanted to double check that.
Yeah, luckily not. And I would say it's incredibly rare. So we'll keep it at that and say it's a good thing that it's incredibly rare. So hopefully it stays that way.
Yes, absolutely true. All right. So I know that we need to get into college soccer. We'll get into Division I. We'll get into a little bit of MLS and the NWSL title game as well. So college soccer, I think on the weekend in Division I, the biggest thing to take away from all of it was you had a lot of those top seeds who came into the tournament and they're not top seeds anymore because they're out the door on the men's side. You had top 3 seeds and 7 of the 9 go out the door. So it was beyond crazy where you had the men's tournament and the women's tournament. They went a little sideways in Division I. Where do you want to start?
Oh my gosh, there's so many things we can talk about. Obviously I do sometimes follow the women's game more just because that's what I'm calling. But on the men's side, excuse me, on the men's side, I think you're right. I've always noticed, yes, there's parity on the women's side as well. It definitely is. It's grown a lot. But I've always felt in the NCAA tournament on the men's side, anyone can win. Like a first round game makes me nervous more than it even does on the women's side. It still makes me nervous on the women's side for top seeds, but it just seems like in the men's game, you have to be on it from the first kickoff of the first round. Even if you have a bye, your first game, you've got to be ready to go.
Hofstra gets a golden goal. So Vermont is out the door. And so Hofstra is now in. You get its 13th goal of the year, 29-match unbeaten streak. Now is a 1-match beaten streak. If you're talking about Vermont, that dates back to October 26th of last year. So the number 2 and the number 3 seeds out the door, 5, 6, 8, 9 out the door. So Virginia loses to UNC Greensboro. Duke beats Princeton, the number 3. Then you have, let me see. So Vermont loses, Virginia loses, Princeton loses, Maryland survives. By the way, where is your Ramses mug?
I'm still supporting today. We had 2 big losses this weekend, but Tar Heels for sure.
So North Carolina goes up against Maryland, 1-1 after 90, loses 4-3. Washington beats SMU, the number 5. St. Louis beats Indiana, the number 6. Georgetown, the 7, survives UCF. Portland, the 8, loses to Denver 5-4 in PKs. Grand Canyon beat number 9 San Diego. Number 10 High Point beats West Virginia. And then so you finally get to like 10 and it's normal after what happened. So High Point, Bryant, Stanford, UConn, Akron, NC State, Furman, 10 through 16, they're fine. But 1 through 9 was berserk on the men's side. Does that speak more to the first round matchup like you're talking about, or does it discuss parity and not taking a group of 5 conference for granted in situations like this?
I think it speaks to the parity, and we've had teams that have proven it all year, but then the actual proving ground is the NCAA tournament. So I just think the parity in the men's league is unbelievable. It always has been, to be quite honest with you, but it continues to improve, and it just shows that from top to bottom, there's some really high level talent in the NCAA tournament.
Now you've got that happening in the second round on the women's side. TCU advances, Stanford advances, Vandy advances, TCU and North Carolina. Go ahead and raise the mug one more time. Go ahead, raise the mug. Yeah, so there you go. TCU and Carolina 1-1 after 90, and they go to the shootout, and they only survive regulation because of a goal from Camden Fuller. 6 seconds to go in regulation, so it's off a corner. So you get a goal off a set piece with 6 minutes to go, 6 seconds to go regulation. Then it goes further and further, and then TCU wins in the shootout 4-3. We'll discuss that as much as you want. Stanford over BYU, and that was 6. And wow, that's 6-0. That's crazy. Over BYU at number 5. Vandy over LSU 1-0. Melania Fullerton, and so Vandy goes to 18-3-2, most victories in a season since '94. So the chaos that we had on the men's side, you had chaos on the women's side as well. So how do you navigate all this chaos? And it talks about obviously about the parity, but it's chaos, people, in the college game.
The biggest surprise for me on the women's side was the round before with Notre Dame going out.
Yeah.
I felt that was a huge surprise. With them losing to Ohio State in the last little bit. So that was a big one. I thought Notre Dame was a team that has what it takes to potentially win a national championship. The reminder is that they have a sophomore goalkeeper, 2 sophomore forwards. The ACC Offensive Player of the Year is a sophomore. So all is not lost for Notre Dame, but I was really surprised by that. Virginia losing was a bit of a surprise as well, but Washington's on a bit of a run, and anytime you go to penalty kicks, it can be incredibly difficult. It was a tough night in Charlottesville. You mentioned the men earlier. They played back-to-back games, both going into the late stages. So it was a tough game, that one going to penalties as well on the men's side. So for the women, I think we'll address UNC, of course. I think top 16 for them this year is a fair finish. Obviously, as an alum and as someone watching the game, they were 6 seconds away from going to the Elite 8, which I think would have been such a great place to go to no matter what happened from there on out for UNC. But the marking at the back post wasn't right. The post player was off the post. There was just a lot that went wrong on that corner kick. And then you missed 2 penalties by 2 of our top goal scorers. It happens, but TCU is a good team. They've been good all year. I think it is a fair placement for the Tar Heels, as much as I would have loved for them to move on. And you mentioned the parity piece. I think that also has to be some credit given to the coaches on the men's and the women's side, that the coaching is at a higher level than it's ever been in the college game, in my opinion, from a tactical perspective. So not only is the gap not big between teams, but coaches know how to adapt. They make really good scouting reports. They are elite at figuring out how to make these teams hard to beat. And that keeps them in games to be able to have upsets.
All right, so let's take a peek at the bracket as it stands. Everybody's getting dialed up for Saturday, and it is TCU and Vanderbilt low left. It is Duke and Washington low right. Duke and Washington, by the way, that's going to be on Black Friday. Duke and Washington, Black Friday, 4 o'clock Eastern time. TCU and Vandy is going to be on Saturday. Then you've got Ohio State and Florida State, Stanford and Michigan State in the upper half of your bracket. So we're down to the final 8. When you look at this group, what do you think?
I think that Stanford, I think they're going to win. I do not know how anyone stops their scoring. They have so many attacking threats that it is just almost impossible to stop them. 6-0 against BYU is insane. It's just insane. And 7-3 against Alabama. Now, you can look at that critically and go, they gave up 3 goals. So if they have a day where they're struggling to score or someone sits back with a lot of numbers, is that going to make it hard on Stanford? But if you look across an entire season, they don't score goals in one way by one player. It's not always in the run of play. They're also very good on free kicks, great on corner kicks. They're good in the air. They can also score from the run of play. So I think Michigan State is very good. I just don't see anyone stopping Stanford. Washington, Duke, to me, I give the edge to Duke, but Washington's on a run. They've got a goalkeeper that is, let's say, spirited. She's spirited. And she is an emotional leader. Nicole Van Dyke, their head coach, is an emotional leader who came from Stanford. She's a high-level coach, so don't count them out. Florida State, Ohio State, toss-up. I would give the edge to Florida State just because Ohio State didn't have the greatest year. They're unseeded, but they're on a run as well. And then TCU Vanderbilt, I have no idea. I think that is whoever shows up on the day, because both teams are very well organized and have a lot of attacking threats.
Okay, so we will put those in the hermetically sealed envelope, and we'll have those ready for you next week.
We'll see how those age in a week from now.
It's right there with you. Men's side, they're a round behind. So you're looking at third round action, Hofstra and Furman. Hofstra knocking off Vermont, obviously. That was one of the biggest things on the board completely. So Furman continues to host. Hofstra ends up on the 30th, which is Sunday. So I have to look at a calendar. I just like 30 days ahead, September, April, June.
I do too, don't worry.
Hofstra and Furman. So Furman as the 16 has made it through. Akron as the 14 has made it through after knocking off Notre Dame on the men's side. So Duke and Akron, Hofstra and Furman, Grand Canyon and Portland is the 8. Grand Canyon knocks off San Diego at the 9. Bryant knocks off Seton Hall. St. Louis upsets Indiana. So that mini quadrant is gone completely into file 13. So the 11 comes through. St. Louis unranked comes through. And that's the upper half of the bracket. Then you've got Washington and Stanford. Washington, once again, not ranked, beat Oregon State in double overtime, beat number 5 SMU to get to play number 12 Stanford. Then you have UConn and Maryland, one of the few chalk brackets, period, one of the few chalk quadrants, period. Maryland and UConn, NC State, UNC Greensboro coming through from the SoCon. NC Greensboro beat Furman at Furman in the SoCon title game. They beat Elon and PKs. They end up beating Virginia, the number 2, to get to play NC State, the 15. Then you have Georgetown and High Point, which is a 7-10. So 2 of the 8 possible matchups have the ranked teams that are supposed to be there on the men's side. If I say it's chaos, how far off am I?
Not that far. It's showbiz, baby. That's what I think. This is the fun time of year. Unless you are the top seeded team, you enjoy this stuff as a fan. You just never know who's going to step up. I'm interested to watch Bryant. Admittedly, I haven't seen them this year, and they've had a really great season. So I'm just excited to watch their journey to see how far they go. Also, that UNC Greensboro NC State game, I find very intriguing. Just being in this local area as well, knowing what that means for a team that's not in a Power 4 to come through and beat Virginia. Can they keep it going versus a team like NC State, who's had a wonderful year?
Now, where do you want to go? Do you want to go MLS or do you want to go NWSL?
Let's go MLS.
Okay, so MLS, we had a decent amount of chaos last night for the most recent matchup of the bunch. We had our friend Adrian Garcia Marquez on the bark for Life at the Murph Dragon, and San Diego advances. San Diego FC takes out Minnesota United, the team that drives you crazy, unless you're a fan of the quarter zip pullover and the T-shirt underneath with arrows.
I like Minnesota.
What? Okay, so let's.
And it's so not my style when I coached or anything, so it's so opposite. I don't know why I like them.
I was going to ask. I mean, well, and one of the things that I noticed about them in particular was the idea that you have a team like Minnesota and they drive you crazy because for them, literally the ball has cooties. They don't like it. They don't want the ball. It's just like, nope, I don't want it. No, sir. No, sir. Don't like it. Don't like it at all. And they even do the Luis Enrique PSG kickoff, where they launch it long into the corner, don't want it. They're not going to do anything with it because they hate possession. Apparently, the P word is a bad word in Minnesota. You can't have the P word. You cannot have possession of the ball if you're Minnesota United. So what they do is the Luis Enrique PSG kickoff, launch it into the corner to create an opportunity for their defense to pin you in to get a short field, turn it over, and end up getting a quick shot on target. So maybe it's that the art of the chase. I don't know.
Well, let's not be dramatic. They still get like 40-something% possession. So it's not like they don't want the ball, John. But no, I'm with you. I think I like Minnesota United for a couple reasons. One, it infuriates people, and I find it hilarious. And so I think there's just a part of me that when it's infuriating to play against, I have a little bit of respect for it from the way that they manage themselves. Is it the way I like teams that I used to coach to play? No, that's not the route I would go. I am definitely a let's win 5-4 rather than 1-0 type of coach. But that's my style, and that's what I like. The other reason I like them is because there is a level of buy-in that gives me a lot of respect for Eric Ramsey, because it's hard to get players to buy into systems of play no matter how you play, but it's effective. Now, has it gotten them past the conference semifinal? No, it has not, but it has been effective throughout the year. And when you have a coach that can create buy-in and that can create it where there's success that comes out of it, not buy-in just, hey, let's go down with the ship and we're not any good. Like, they're actually a good club, and they follow his lead. I think that's pretty impressive.
And they grounded out for a while, and you could tell that San Diego FC was getting really frustrated with what they weren't able to do. Usually on that surface at the Murph Dragon, it's back and forth, and they're pinning people in and getting their opportunities. They finally do get the breakthrough. They finally do win 1-0. And so San Diego advances. And we spent a lot of time yesterday on Vancouver and LAFC. I called it an instant classic. I don't think I'm far off. Considering that Vancouver had to finish 120 minutes with 9 players. And there were all of these chances that LAFC, literally you had post crossbar late in the second overtime. And, it was just one of the wilder games I've seen, where you end up having to play the final 30 minutes of regulation a man down because of a second yellow. Then you are out of subs and you've got to play with 9, and you're trying to navigate just to kind of get to PKs and make sure that you could get it after you had a 2-0 lead. I have so much stuff going in my head about Vancouver and LA. The free kick from Sonny at 90+4. How insane is it to be able to have that much control of a ball to where you end up throwing a slider upper 90 from 25 that Takaoka has no chance to get to?
One of the best free kicks I've seen in a long time, based on context of where it was at in the game, what it meant, but also from a technical execution piece. I was watching from my couch and I jumped up and started yelling. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I was so excited. I am not an LAFC fan. I am not a Vancouver fan. I'm a soccer fan. And that free kick got me going. I was like, let's go play some pickup right now. Like, I was ready to go. But you said it, John. Like, honestly, the approach he had to take, you could see Mueller just look over his shoulder and go like, did that actually go in? Because the angle, the way it had to go up and over the wall and curl in was such a minute amount of space that he was able to find. I don't think you are far off from saying it's an instant classic, because not only everything that happened at the end, but the 2-0 lead being erased by LAFC, and Vancouver was flying in that first half. Second half was a lot of fun. Then they do it with the free kick. You go down 2 players, all those types of things. I felt bad for Sonny missing the penalty kick, because they wouldn't have been there if that wasn't for him already. But no top player cares about that at that point. They want to make their penalty. So I felt for him on a human level. But what a fun game for fans to be watching, especially the neutral or the Vancouver fans, obviously, because they got out with the win.
Yeah, just under 54,000 record crowd at BC Place to see that. And then Hugo Lloris felt compelled to complain about the surface after the match, the artificial turf. Last time I checked, it wasn't the first time that you played there. If you're LAFC, there's a thing called home and away, and it's not the first time that LAFC has played on that surface. Yeah, I know it's a welcome mat. I get it. It's got weird quirks and bounces and things like that. But grass surfaces have weird quirks and bounces
Right.
too, because the grass may not be mowed the right way. You might have the lawnmower sit there and take a divot out where it's not supposed to. The grass may not be even. So I would just ask Mr. Larice to dial it back about 19 different.
It wasn't talked about before the game, but it was talked about after the game. That just doesn't look right to me. Maybe talk about it in a month from now, and when there maybe could be actual change. I think that's the way I look at it. His argument's not wrong, or his statement necessarily. Like, if you don't like turf, you don't like turf, and a lot of people feel that way. But you're right. It just seemed to not be the best timing when that was such a great game.
Yeah.
And it was the last thing on people's minds, even the players. I would argue, I know I'm not in their locker room and this and that, but I just thought that was an interesting thing to bring out.
Yeah. I mean, last time I checked, sour grapes can be turned into red wine. So that's all right. So then now with Vancouver advancing, they go to San Diego on the weekend. What's your early thoughts on that in the conference final?
Oh gosh. I honestly have no prediction on this.
Because we just got the matchup last night. I'm just,
No, but the reason is when you get to this point in any kind of championship run, it's such little margins that separate. And I would have said that with watching Cincinnati, Miami. I'd have been like, this is going to be a tight one. And then, then Messi just happened. And which he often does.
Yeah, I heard it.
And then it's this big blowout. So yes, if a team shows up on any given day and they're just clicking and it's just on for them, it could not be tight. It might end up being something like we saw with Inter Miami winning 4-0. But with this matchup, I just think that there's an emotional piece to Vancouver on top of all the technique, all the tactics that they're able to employ that seems to be guiding them, that they're just fighting. But they do have, their defender, like when they got the red card that's going to be out, that's a big one for me. And San Diego had a little bit of a scare last night. So I think they dial some things up.
Eastern Conference, Messi and friends, they just seem like they're steamrolling, folks. And now I know, and we got into this also yesterday, and I wanted to get your thoughts. A lot of folks have been ishing on Javier Mascherano. Hey, he's never coached at the team level. He's only done club. He's never done team before. And it's going to be a disaster in the beginning of the year. And Javier Mascherano has not been given, I think, enough credit for navigating all of this stuff to get to this point. Everyone seemed to be completely and totally surprised that he sits Luis Suarez, and you end up with Silvetti and Allende up top with Messi to create. But because of what we saw with Nashville in game 3 of that series, where if you got young legs out there, not named Luis Suarez, you can press, you can go quickly and go at back lines that you can't have if you've got Suarez out there that's a part of this equation. So Mascherano goes for the younger players. Silvetti, U19 for Argentina, and you're getting instant results from him. And it's just Messi and friends continue to just push folks out of the building. And, Lionel Messi with this 2 ridiculous passes and 2 of his 3 assists.
The top leaders, in my opinion, in any type of work industry know how to surround themselves with people that make them better. So if you have a staff around you, if you have people that are good tactically or they're good with people management, whatever it may be, then you're going to look even better as a coach. And Mascherano is talented in and of himself in a lot of ways, but you also surround yourself with people that you're better as the collective than as the individual. So I don't really buy into this first-year coach thing. It's more about knowing what you need to supplement your own genuine personality with to get the right results. So we don't know all behind the scenes what he's done with that, but when I see a first-time leader, he's been a leader on the field, obviously, but in a coaching perspective, I have to think that he has also surrounded himself with people that make him better. On top of that, then you make decisions, whether it's as the collective or if Mascherano made it, he obviously has the final say of playing Messi with Silvetti, with Allende, as you brought up. Messi as a 9, Luis Suarez a 9, completely different 9s. We know that. Messi's going to drop in. He's going to play a lot differently. So this, to me, was also a tactical decision that made a lot of sense, especially coming out of that Nashville game. And it also was a people management decision. You came out of the Nashville game, and it was a great performance. You advance on. What do you tell your team if all of a sudden you just insert a player in? Forget that it's Luis Suarez. that makes it hard because you're sitting there going, I've got Suarez on the bench. And if this goes wrong, that is going to be highlighted. But internally, what do you tell your team if all of a sudden you've been performing well and you just go back to what you knew when you're in good form? I think it was a great management decision. We can say that on the hindsight, of course, but it certainly looks like a great management decision by him.
And I know we'll watch them going up against NYC in the last game of the Eastern Conference. What are you up to on Thursday? What is the KCD family Thanksgiving extravaganza?
I'm going to see my dad and spend time with him for Thanksgiving on Thanksgiving Day, so it should be fun.
Right on. It's going to be driving to Montgomery and catching up with the in-laws and the big spread that's going to be there. So 2.5 hours down, 2.5 hours back, live football on Friday. So we will catch up again next week. We'll know the championship game. We'll talk about more college, talk about stuff. That's the official term. KCD, good to see you. You and Owen have a fantastic holiday, and we'll see you next week.
Sounds good. Bye.
Right, there goes KCD, and where she be trying to figure things out and how she's going to navigate the Thanksgiving holiday. Now, rapid fire, bringing in Kaylor Hodges now to talk about the USL Championship and find out what's going on there. So saw the picture of you in the, I guess it was in the bookstore, was it? In Tulsa after the fact, after recovering from the USL Championship. What was the weekend like there in Tulsa? What was it like for you guys?
Well, I mean, we drove in right after work, so we got there around 3:30 that morning. Got up around 6:30 to take a shower, get ready, and then around 7:00 we got breakfast, got coffee, and then we were pretty much feet on ground, just kind of doing everything near One Oak Stadium or One Oak Field, and it was awesome. It was cold. It was like it was really cold. Not freezing. People in like Minnesota are gonna be like, that's summer to us. But for me, it was cold. And so it made for a very interesting atmosphere where I was a little bit concerned. I was like, man, it's a cold day. It's a little dreary. It looks like it could rain any minute. How many people are going to show up? I turned the corner and the street is just filled with Tulsa fans everywhere. I was in a coffee shop on Cherry. It's the coffee shop on Cherry Street, I think is what it's called. And there was these two older gentlemen just talking sports, and I hear one of them trying to explain what the USL is to the other. And this is like a 60-year-old man talking to his 70-some-year-old counterpart, and they're talking about getting and going to the game later that day. There was a big atmosphere around Tulsa, so many FC Tulsa shirts everywhere. And I think it shows you the importance of the gap that the USL is trying to cover, which is being the only professional sport in town, as opposed to being in a New York or in Atlanta or somewhere like that where there are other options. In Tulsa, you have the Drillers. And you have FC Tulsa, and that's all you're really working with. And so when you are the only professional sport in town, you get to be more of a headline. And it absolutely was. Everywhere you went, there were scissor tail gear everywhere.
And so you end up with a game that goes longer than 90. No real surprise there, considering what we talked about last week leading into this game. But now Pittsburgh has a title. And you have to feel for someone like a Robbie Mertz, the hometown kid. The Yinzer gets the title for his hometown club. Takeaways from the championship game now that you've had the sum total of, less than 72 hours to digest it. What sticks in your brain about what we learned about the game, those two teams in the season?
I mean, there's a lot that went on with the championship. When I'm thinking through everything, there is a lot of storylines that happened. First things first, it did not translate to TV. However, this game was exciting. It was. There was a lot of people who were like, this was boring, no goals. It was not a good match or whatever. This was a horrible product. I completely disagree. The amount of times that a Pittsburgh player crossed a Tulsa shot, yes, people could say that was boring. Every single cross that was taken, and we saw a bunch of them, the amount of times that you felt just the entire stadium just gasp, because everybody knows that all it takes is one cross to not get blocked, and Taylor Kaylor is right there, and it's a goal. Right? Everybody knew how much danger there was on every single cross. and yet they kept getting blocked. And you just felt that every single person in the stadium just gasp, right? And so for me, it was very exciting because every single moment something was happening. Sure, there weren't shots being taken on goal a bunch, but that didn't mean it wasn't a fun match to be a part of.
Right.
The Riverhounds faithful, the Steel Army were loud.
I'm not
They were awesome. You had the 83 United, you had everybody that was with Tulsa SGs, and they were making that atmosphere an absolute blast. Then there are I don't want to call it political undertones, but there was the little rumblings, the CBA stuff that was going on.
The T-shirts that the players were wearing walking out onto the
Mhm.
field for the processional that apparently was not seen by the national television audience.
Correct. They wore them. You saw a brief clip of them wearing it, but it cut away pretty fast. The players wore that out. Not just that. I mean, me and John Morrissey talked to Connor Tobin, who is like the head USLPA guy. We talked to him for a while, and the whole time it was like, this is coming down to it. Like, today is pretty much the day. We're about to see a lot of stuff happen. And you see every PA that's ever existed, like every union that's ever existed on social media, come in support for the USLPA. All this is happening while there's a championship match going on. You meet people who are in the stadium who are watching for the first time because this is not just FC Tulsa, this is the Roughnecks, right? There have been people who've been around a long time waiting for this moment with the Roughnecks. You have the Steel Army with the Riverhounds, where, I mean, I'm 26, the Riverhounds are 26. Up until a couple weeks ago, me and the Riverhounds had the same amount of championships, right? There are people who are married with kids, Robbie Mertz,
Mm-hmm.
who had not seen the Riverhounds win a championship from Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot happening. And so when it goes to extra time, and I would say probably about 5 minutes into the first half of extra time, both sets of supporters like stopped chanting
Oh,
because
wow.
everybody was so nervous.
Yeah.
They could not get it out of them. There were just every single dribble, every single touch. It was just heart and throat, knowing one mistake could be it. And then it made itself to penalties. Tulsa fans got quiet. Riverhounds fans got loud because, and me included, once it got to penalties, everybody knew what was going to happen. And it was really cool because the moment went to penalties, I moved myself in front of the Steel Army because I was like, they're going to win. The players are going to come immediately celebrate over here. I want to get the shot. And everybody in the stadium knew that it made itself to penalties. Eric Dick is the best goalkeeper in the league. How can you beat him?
Yeah.
And who's it come down to? Lukic, who has been the super star of this run by FC Tulsa. If there is no Lukic, there is no run. And I told John Morrissey after the game, I might have said it live on our post-game broadcast, that was the moment for me. I check marked whoever scores between Lukic or whoever, wins that matchup, Lukic versus Dick, that's who's winning this game. If Dick saves, then it's Pittsburgh. If Lukic scores, it's Tulsa. That was the matchup for me, and Dick got the best of them.
When you look at this postseason, really, I think that it speaks to the keepers in USL Championship, because we could talk about all the offense that in the world that we want, and you've got some great offenses in USL Championship. That's not in dispute. But I think at the same time, this postseason, the conversation should be dictated by defense and by the folks between the sticks that got their teams further than they might have anticipated, got them into a championship game, and had the matchups that we were looking for with great offenses going up against great keepers and then going into PKs and such. I think that this one was probably the year of the keeper when you're talking about the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, if you look, I think good friend Nicholas Murray even wrote an article about that, about how 2025 was the year of the goalkeeper. And It's not off at all. You look at someone like a Tyler Derrick, who they pulled out of coaching to be an emergency keeper, and he stands on his head. He makes a save fairly early on in this match that just pushes it wide, that that keeps it from being 1-0. Does Augie Williams miss a easy goal later on? Yes. But it's not, because earlier Derrick made a big save on Augie Williams as well. You saw Eric Dick save a point blank header, tips it over the bar, and you're just like, this guy is just insane. Koke Vegas did everything he could to try to will Rhode Island into this final. He gets beat by a magical goal by Robbie Mertz, and that's it. Saldana played out of his mind as well for Pittsburgh, or for Detroit, earlier on this year. Coming into this, we were talking about Anthony Siaha and how his confidence and his just play is what made Hartford who they were. Yes, Hartford was good at scoring, but it was Siaha that we had talked about a lot. There's so much that we saw with the defensive groups and the core of goalkeepers that you just felt yourself being like, wow, this is the difference in this, because it's not like FC Tulsa is just some defensive powerhouse that just relies on their back line. We saw them absolutely New Mexico a few weeks ago. Offensively, they can do it. They're one of the best this league has to offer. But then you see a Pittsburgh Riverhounds who got better after Bob Lilly was removed from being a goalkeeper, significantly better defensively as well.
Mm-hmm.
That unstoppable force meets immovable object. Unfortunately for you, the Pittsburgh back line remains unmovable.
Do we have any idea, A, on what sent Bob Lilly to administrative leave, and B, do we have a timeline on any kind of a final decision / return / thanks for your service for Bob Lilly? Do we have any intel on the why and the future of what's going on in Pittsburgh? Do we have any clue whatsoever?
There's always rumor that you hear. I don't want to perpetuate anything without any hard facts. However, we've all been around Bob Lilly. You can assume what could have happened.
Yeah.
One of his rants probably went a little too far, and it is what it is.
He is an emotionally elevated individual. Let's phrase it.
Yes. As for when we'll find out about, is he returning, will he return? I think Rob Vincent winning a championship immediately, I think, is what you're looking at.
Yeah, I think that's definitely.
And it's weird for Pittsburgh because it is a team that, but Rob Vincent perfected. And I talked to John right after the game, and I just said that Pittsburgh became more dangerous now, because not only can they recruit, hey, look at our fan base. It's the Steel Army is one of the best fan bases that this country has to offer, let alone the USL.
Yeah.
Not only do we have a brand new stadium coming, you want to be a part of that. Not only are we vying for Division I, you want to be a part of that. Not only do we play in one of the most beautiful settings that this country has to offer, that's great. But what's been the number one thing keeping people from playing for Pittsburgh? Bob Lilly.
Mm-hmm.
You go to Pittsburgh when you're fresh out of college or you're out of places to go.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're playing this really, really fun brand of soccer, and people are going to say, well, are you watching the same final that I did? Yes. You had not seen as much of a free-flowing, fun attacking team as you did in Pittsburgh. Unfortunately, Tulsa's back line was also awesome, but a worse back line, and I promise you it's a 2-3-0 game for Pittsburgh. That's how good of a defense Tulsa played. It wasn't out of a lack of quality for Pittsburgh, and they've looked more engaging going forward. They're playing a fun brand of football that people are going to want to join. Pittsburgh got even easier to recruit.
We now have, with the season over, And it's kind of like Major League Soccer, where you've had some teams sit there and make their initial roster decisions if they were not in the championship. And now the gate is open, and you're starting to see some teams with decisions being made and folks retiring. New Mexico United's Kaylor Ryden's retiring at the end of the year. And you've also got Brian Ownby, after a 14-year career in Lou City, announcing his retirement. And you've got teams making their initial roster decisions. Tampa Bay, Detroit City, Lex SC, Oakland Roots, Vegas Lights, Monterey Bay inking Adrian Rebellard, who had a multi-year deal. Any names that stood out to you in this initial wave of clubs that are sitting there making their decisions? Either yes, we're keeping him was interesting. No, we're not keeping him was interesting. Yes, we're keeping him. It's a no-brainer. From these early returns, has anything stuck with you?
I think more or less looking at one Knox down in League One for me, a lot of their key players that won them a championship not returning, but you can always assume this means they're getting a move up to the championship or they're getting something else, a bigger payday, if you will.
Yeah.
They're not in Sean Lewis and all those players because they don't feel like they're good enough, obviously. So clearly they're exploring some kind of options in the championship or even higher or abroad. One that might interest Atlanta-based folks is Tristan Traeger, leaving Orange County to join the Air Force.
Hey, I mean, we knew that was a part of his DNA, and it's always close to his heart, representing his country, and especially with his university ties as well. I thought that was a no-brainer. Sebastian Guenzati goes to the Cosmos. I thought that was interesting as their first signing in USL League One.
Mo before.
Yeah.
So this is more or less a returning home for him. And he wasn't amazing in Detroit. So probably playing down at the League One level is great. He gets to return home and gets to be a hometown hero. So that was kind of a no-brainer. In general, most of these decisions that I've seen thus far have all made sense. Even looking at Lexington, where you're like, these are good players being released, but they're players that did not really make the final cut in the end, with them signing every player to ever live. They just didn't quite make the cut in the end. They're still quality players, though. I'm circling North Carolina.
Yes.
Who gets to win the sweepstakes?
Yeah.
And there's already a couple players that are signed on the dotted line that I know about.
Okay.
And all I'm going to say is sometimes the rich do just get richer.
Okay. All right. Stadium news before we get out of here. And it's both in League One. Greenville has a stadium sponsor, and Union Omaha has brought out the schematics for their in-town stadium. So those two ideas are continuing to germinate in USL League One too.
Union Omaha's the bigger one for me because now that they actually have more solid plans, it can't be taken away from them at this point. They, assuming some billionaire doesn't come in and just snatch up the land out of nowhere, Union Omaha Stadium is happening, not barring a council decision like it's happening for Greenville.
Yeah.
They were already building the stadium. They were just going to have to sell it to somebody, basically. But I mean, it's cool. It's a little bit more solidity that they're going to have it. But for me, Union Omaha is the big deal because not only does this solidify they're going to have a stadium, it almost all but confirms, hey, they're going to be a championship or D1 club very soon.
All right. So before we reconvene next month, what's going on at the USL show and at Kaylor Hodges between now and then, as we have more clubs making roster decisions and putting folks out on the market?
For me personally, waiting on the Legion roster news to drop because it's about time that I record again. So that's what I've been kind of waiting on before I did the season's over podcast, is waiting on roster news. And then for the USL show, we're not meeting this week. Everybody's doing family travel and all that kind of stuff. So right now I'm in the middle of editing our video that happened when we were down in Tulsa. So right now I'm trying to get all of that together, kind of put some finishing touches on it. And it was a cool experience down in Tulsa, and we tried to capture it. We got the trophy lift ceremony, everybody said.
Yes.
it didn't happen. It did happen. It was weird. But it did happen, and so we have that if people are interested in seeing what that actually looked like.
At the USL show at Kaylor Hodges. Have a safe holiday, sir, in the Central Time Zone, or as the boss says, God's time. And we will catch up with you next month, where we'll have more roster decisions. We'll discuss North Carolina FC, all the things. It's great to see you, my friend. Have a great Thanksgiving. We'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you. You as well.
There goes Kaylor Hodges from at the USL show and at Kaylor Hodges. All right, hour number 2. And I went past 10 o'clock, so that's my official boo-boo. It is our first visit to Cleveland, Georgia this year. And we get to catch up with David McDowell and find out what's going on with the Truett McConnell Bears. They are in the postseason. They are in your bracket that you're filling out in pen. And we find out what's going on for the 10 seed on the women's side. Coach, thanks for dropping by. Where are you, in the library?
No, I mean, I put books in there to make myself look smart. This is my office.
Yes. Well, you see what I'm done in my office. I sit there and I just put up a bunch of scarves and lids and try to not to destroy the curtain rods and things down here in the office. Thanks for coming on the show. I'm glad that we were able to catch up with you at one of the I know that for coaches, one of the more busier times of the year. So welcome to the morning show. This is the chaos that you've gotten yourself into.
Well, it's definitely a privilege to be here this morning. I'm excited to talk with you guys about it.
When you came into the 2025 season, and for those that may not know the lay of the land and the geography, right now it's NAIA and it's in the Appalachian Conference. Mm-hmm. When you came into this season, what were the expectations for Truett McConnell, both internally and in the NAIA soccer community on the women's side? What were the expectations coming into this year?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that, because we've been talking about that as a team. We graduated 10 girls last year. 9 of them were starters. Mm-hmm. And so we were curious to see how this year would go, because when you lose that core, there's a lot of transition. And so optimistically, we thought we would reload, but then realistically, we thought it'd be more of a rebuilding year. But we brought in some really good players. The returners came in strong, and things just started to click early on. We had a couple of tough early games that the girls kind of grinded through. And then with that, I think more belief came. And then as we got into the AAC conference, we started to find our rhythm. So what started off as let's just see what happens season has gradually just grown into something special.
For those that haven't had the chance to come and see you, who are some of the, let's put it this way, what's the star power this year? And has anyone that was not of an immediate focus coming into this season emerged out of that group as a pleasant surprise across the board? Who've been some of the stalwarts for you this year?
I mean, the majority of our attacking output has come really from our wingers, which is Bella Hodgson and Annabelle Trowski. They've come in. They're both upperclassmen, and they have just taken off. And they've scoring goals, getting a lot of assists. They've done really well. I think whenever I think about the other part, we've had a couple of girls that got some time last year, but have really thrived this year. I think one of our two of our holding mids that are both sophomores, Lena Seidel and Ari Marvell, have really come in and established themselves as two excellent players within the system. So we've definitely got a lot of help from the whole group, but those girls in particular have really taken off this season.
And when you mention that, how have the upperclassmen helped the underclassmen navigate how tough the AAC is? Because I'll get into the conference question in a bit, because it is knockdown drag out at moments when you're talking about life in the Appalachian. How have the upperclassmen helped the lowerclassmen and the underclassmen navigate that conference and navigate that first match that you've had so far in the postseason in the bracket? Right.
Yeah. A lot of our discussion this year has been on standards. And, I've been at Truett now just over 20 years. And that's one thing that we've wanted to emphasize from the get-go. And so whenever you have a new group, such as we have this year, it's important that they grasp those the importance of our standards and what our culture is. And I feel like the upperclassmen have done that really well. That, as I told them the other day, that they've really made this team their team, and they've emphasized the importance of the little details, the importance of coming to practice every day, wanting to compete, and then in games, taking nothing for granted. And I think they've really enforced, especially through their actions and their habits. I think the upperclassmen have really enforced the standards of the program.
Number 12 team in the country right now after the season and the conference and getting into the first round of the playoffs with a win. Like I said, we'll get into that stuff in a second. Here's my Appalachian question. For someone who hasn't had the chance to see how nuts it can be when you're playing in the Appalachian, how would you break down where there are very few respites that you get in conference play? How tough is it to navigate the Appalachian Conference on a year-by-year basis?
Yeah, I know it might sound a little bit arrogant, but we've been winning the conference the last 8 years. And so what we're finding whenever we do compete in the AAC is that a lot of the teams, they're bringing their best game. It's almost their hope that they can be the ones to beat Truett. And so every game, while we can prepare for each opponent, that opponent usually shows something different, whether it's a different shape, different formation. A lot of times we're coming up against a really low block that we have to break down. So it takes patience. It takes a discipline to stay focused on what the game plan is. But every game, we know that particular conference team is saying, we have a chance to knock off Truett. We have a chance to beat the number 12 team in the nation. And it puts a massive target on our backs, but I think the girls enjoy that part of it.
One of the other things that you notice about your roster is I think it's 9 different countries that are represented.
Yeah.
So it is that you're dealing with everything from Wales to the Netherlands to Germany to Canada to Bogart and Pendergrass, Georgia. I mean, it is a lot of different metropoli, for the plural metropolises, a lot of different metropoli coming together for you and that staff to make that Truett McConnell roster.
Yeah.
How much of a challenge is it, to recruit to Truett McConnell? Because there's a lot of European talent that has made their way over there to be there in the North Georgia mountains. How difficult is it to recruit Europe to convince them to go to Truett? And then when it comes to blending everyone that comes in, whether it's Canada or Europe, with everyone from the state of Georgia that's a part of this, how difficult is it to navigate that melting pot? Yeah,
that's a great question. I mean, it's tough, and I would say the majority of our time as a coaching staff is put into recruiting. I mentioned earlier the importance of our culture, and our culture is based on finding great players, but also great people. And I'm a big believer that if you can create that family environment where you've got a group of girls that they're more focused on the interests of their teammates than themselves, you can do some really good things. And so we found over the course of time, the more that you recruit that type of player, that type of student athlete, it attracts other girls to come to it. Plus, again, I know it sounds arrogant, but our playing style has become quite appealing to a lot of girls. We are a very possession-based team. We encourage girls to be on the ball, and when we recruit, we try to find girls that value the ball no matter what their position is. So in most games, without exaggeration, we probably have about 70% of the ball, and so the girls like that aspect, that they're encouraged to be brave, they're encouraged to take chances, and I think that combination of our playing style plus a culture that focuses on the person just as much as the player has allowed us to recruit some really top level players, both within the United States and overseas. And as you know, Atlanta's, it's a hot spot for soccer as well. And so we can find some really, hidden gems within Georgia and mix them with just some top level internationals as well.
What's it been like for you to see the game grow the way that it has on the high school and the collegiate level, where you look at your roster, and for us, when we cover the high school game, and I'm just reading high schools here: West Lawrence, East Hall, Carrollton, Columbus, Walnut Grove, Whitewater, Hebron Christian, Eastside, Jackson County, Callaway. I mean, these are some heavyweight schools in the lower classifications in the state of Georgia that you're sitting there and going, you, like what you're doing. I mean, these are some heavyweight schools that you're bringing talent from.
Yeah. Yeah. And we do a lot of work in our recruiting process, and, you know, we don't just kind of throw out a big net and say, oh, let's hope we get a certain group of girls. We're very specific in who we're looking at. And as I mentioned, you know, we're finding girls that are coming from those heavyweight schools that say, yeah, there's other options and I could go to this school, but there's something about Truett, whether it's the family atmosphere or the success of the program, that is encouraging girls to say, yeah, I want to be a part of that. And that's very important to me, because as the girls know, you know, we emphasize so much being a big family, and it's hard whenever you have a large team to have that family atmosphere. But again, when you have girls that embrace what the culture is, you know, no matter where you're coming from, once you buy into that, you're going to have success, in my opinion.
How much of a culture shock is it for the players that come from Europe to see what life is like up there in Cleveland, and the integration of all of that stuff?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it is. I mean, I try to be as open and honest in the recruiting process with them to know, okay, this is what Cleveland is. We'll do a little Zoom call where we show them campus in the surrounding area. But seeing it and hearing it is one thing, but once you get immersed in the North Georgia mountains, it's different. You know, even little things such as, you know, in Europe especially, you walk everywhere, or there's a lot of public transport. You know, in America, you drive. I mean, girls will drive from their dorm room to the cafeteria, and it's like 200 yards. So yeah, even the little things make up that culture shock that you're referring to. So yeah, it takes some time to assimilate. But I think, again, when, you know, you're within a team that says, here, I'll help you with this. Do you need a ride here? Or, you know, do you need me to help you with your phone or whatever it is? That helps the assimilation happen much smoother.
David McDowell, head coach of the women's side at Truett McConnell, hanging out with us here as they are getting ready for the second round of the NAIA tournament. And I mean, look, I as someone who has been on that campus, I know that lactic acidosis is not my best friend, because if all those hills that are there on that campus, if you're not properly hydrated and everything, you've got to be ready for that campus, man, and going into downtown Cleveland. I know all about it. But at the same time, you're looking for a specific kind of individual to be there at Truett McConnell. It's not just the on the field stuff that you're looking at. You're looking at the whole person, because of the devotion that you have to giving back to the community. And I thought that the numbers, the number of man hours, the number of player hours that you guys give back to the community, I thought that was another cool aspect. And I know that when you're looking for those student athletes, that's got to be another part of that too. Yeah.
The one of our core values that the girls hear from me a lot is servant leadership, and then the other one is excellence. And I'm a big believer that, you know, it's not just about what you're doing on the field. You want to pursue excellence in every area. And, you know, for me personally, you know, I've been given a lot, and I think it's important for these girls, especially in today's culture, to understand the importance of giving back. And so with the team, you know, we emphasize putting others before yourself, giving back to the community, and trying to help them understand certain habits now that are going to be better realized in life later on. And I think, as you and I can testify to, it gets tough in the real world. And for me, ultimately, the most important thing is preparing these girls for what happens after their time at Truett, and that real world scenario. And that's what I love about college athletics is, you know, we get to form these relationships and hopefully have an impact in their lives that makes them better people in their walk. So yeah.
When you look at the bracket, it was a second round matchup, because you bypassed it as the number 12 national ranked team, the number 10 seed in the overall tournament. You guys were waiting. You're in the second round. You're waiting to look at everybody else on the 20th. You had a matchup against Cumberland, Tennessee up there in round number 1. Did you anticipate that it would be as hairy as it got in the second half when they drew close to you there? Because we were looking at the highlights and saw that there was a little bit of distance, and then Cumberland comes back, and then you get the one late. Did you anticipate it being that hairy?
100%. I mean, Cumberland's a quality team. I mean, we've never beaten them before this year. In fact, last year they beat us 7-1 early on in the season. So we knew it was going to be a tough game. Their coach is very good, and our first half was tremendous. It's probably one of the best halves of soccer we've had in a long time. Scored 3 goals early, and it almost caused us to kind of fall into a little bit of a lull. But as you know, we told the girls at this level, every team we're playing now is good, and every team's going to have that sense of desperation to say, in 45 minutes we may be done with our season, so we're going to give everything that we have. And so once the first goal went in, you know that leads to a little bit more momentum, and then the second goal happened, and you know, you start to sweat a little bit. But I will say what I was most pleased about from the girls was their response to the second goal. And they kind of just stuck together and didn't allow any more clear-cut chances after that. And then, of course, the fourth goal was what we were needing. It just settled everybody's nerves late on and allowed us to kind of see the game out. But yeah, at 3-2, it gets a little bit nervous. But the girls' response to the second goal was huge.
And now you have a week that includes holiday activity before you head down and take care of the matchup in the round of 16 against Kayce of Indiana. So it's a 7-10. It's chalk in your section of the bracket.
Yeah.
How do you navigate a holiday week? Obviously, you're sitting there going, first and foremost, yeah, man, we're still practicing and we're still playing. How do you navigate a holiday week plus travel to get ready for a round of 16 matchup against the national 7 seed?
Yeah. I mean, we made the decision early on, if we made it to the final site in Florida, we were going to give the girls this week off. So after the game Saturday, we allowed them to go home, and we said the only thing is we'll bring you back Thursday night. So have time with your family, have your Thanksgiving meal, and then we'll come back Thursday, train that night, train twice on Friday, and then we'll head out in Florida Saturday morning. So at this point in the season, I think what matters most is having more of a mental rest. It's such a long season. And, at this point, as we tell the girls all the time, we're not really going to teach you anything new. It's mostly about maintaining the sharpness. But I think the mental aspect of just renewing themselves, being around family and friends, I think that's probably the best recipe to have them come back as sharp as possible.
So when it comes to Thursday and the players that are, from Europe, how are they spending Thanksgiving? Are they going home with Georgia players and sharing the Thanksgiving experience? How are they celebrating Thanksgiving so far from home?
Yeah, so some of them did go home with some of our Georgia-based girls. There's a few that stayed on campus, and for them, Thanksgiving is just really more of another turkey meal. So they're focusing more on getting ahead in their homework, maybe just enjoying having the campus to themselves. But there are some there that they wanted more of the American experience, and so they went home with some of the Georgia girls.
Okay. How are the European players integrating to life in the Southeast? Huh?
Yeah, it's unique. I mean, a lot of our European girls are from larger cities within Europe. And whenever you come to Cleveland, Georgia, where there's maybe 4 traffic lights, and sometimes you get caught behind a tractor, it can be different. But I think they enjoy just what the atmosphere of Truett is, and the team is for them the most important part, and that's why for us it's about creating that family atmosphere for sure.
No doubt about it. It's great to catch up with you, Coach. Glad you made it out of round number 2, and have a fantastic Thanksgiving week.
Thank you.
And enjoy it everywhere, and just get down there safe, and then have a great time in the national environment, the national bubble that's going to be down there next week. Week from today, 10 o'clock start. How are you going to navigate a 10 o'clock start on a Tuesday morning? I mean, literally, is it getting up at the crack of before? Like, are you getting up at like 4 a.m. or something? How does that push your game and all that?
Yeah, I didn't know what to think about that 10 o'clock start, and and we're just going to have to embrace it. I mean, the day before that, Monday, we have a 8 o'clock practice. So I'm trying to create an environment where they're getting up, Sunday and Monday at the same time that they want to get up for Tuesday, and just kind of recreate what Tuesday may look like. But it'll be an early start, and hopefully most of the team are early risers. I mean, they've been having to get up for 6 a.m. workouts throughout the season. So hopefully, that kind of helps them get ready for a 10 o'clock kickoff.
All right, and we'll be keeping an eye on things. NAIA website, Urban Edge Network, down at the final site, and the bubble that is everybody chasing after a championship. Do not be a stranger. Have a fantastic holiday, and we'll be keeping an eye on you. Thanks for dropping by the morning show and letting us know about what's going on there at Truett with the Bears as you guys chase after an NAIA title on the women's side. Thanks for dropping by.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
David McDowell, the head coach for Truett McConnell, as they chase after a championship in the NAIA. He's got some time off. So from his office, he came and visited this morning. And so he has survived his first visit to the morning show. It is 10:20, and now it's time to catch up with one of our features now when it comes to looking at all of the host cities attached to the World Cup in 2026. And we'll be having these interviews fairly frequently as a part of our discussion as to what's going on when it comes to the World Cup. And we are visiting each host city. There's many of them that want to reach out to us. We reach out to them. Hey, we want to find out your story. And then they reach back and we sit there and it's like, okay, when can we do these kinds of things? Yesterday, we caught up with the executive director of the FIFA. Let's see. Now, let me get Sharon's title. So it's our interviews with Sharon Bollenbach, and we'll start that in a second. The executive director, FIFA World Cup 2026, Toronto Secretariat, City of Toronto. So this is our first visit into host cities, and we find out what it's been like for them to orchestrate to get to this point, what else they still need to work on, what concerns they have, how they're tackling all these things, and on all of the manpower and infrastructure that they have to tackle. We're going to be doing this with as many host cities as will get back to us, and we'll be doing this all the way through the tournament. And then once the tournament is over, we're going to come back and have postmortems with each of these host cities to find out the lessons they've learned, how they've survived, all those kinds of things. So this is our first visit with all of these markets and everything that's attached. It's an opportunity for us to catch up and find out what's going on in Toronto as they get ready for the World Cup in 2026. Here is our catch up with Sharon Bollenbach. So, Sharon, let me get this straight. Now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you probably have the front and the back of the business card all covered up with the title and all of the responsibilities. So I looked this up, and tell me if I'm wrong. Executive Director, FIFA World Cup 2026, Toronto Secretariat, City of Toronto. Is all four columns, is that square?
That is correct. Yes.
So, with the history that you have with big ticket items and large events there in the GTA, I mean, we're talking FIFA U20, we're talking Special Olympics, COC, Skate Canada. What attracted you to this particular job at this particular point of your career?
Yeah, you've done your homework. Well, I've come into this role from Special Olympics, as you mentioned, where I had been for 16 years. The last 10 as the CEO of Special Olympics Canada, and loved my work there, loved the organization. I will always have a soft spot in my heart for Special Olympics, but I was ready for a change. I was ready for a new challenge. Felt like I maybe had another leap in me, and the opportunity. I had worked on the U20s that were in Canada in 2007. I was the general manager for the Toronto site. And I thought, you know what? We've got a World Cup coming. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity to be part of this event, to be part of bringing this amazing global event to our city, and decided to throw my hat in the ring. And here we are.
18 years later, how different is it planning for a World Cup as it was planning for the U20s for FIFA back in 2007?
Well, interestingly enough, our first site visits at the stadium back in 2007, we were wearing hard hats and boots because it was under construction. And so here we are doing a capital project to prepare for the World Cup all these years later. But, A World Cup, there's no question. I mean, a World Cup is on a completely different level. The U20s were an amazing event. We had all kinds of records in that event, from, sales and those types of things across Canada. It was amazing to be part of that, which is what sort of drew me to be part of the World Cup. But, there's no question it's on a completely different scale.
How many different, I guess, venues are in play here, whether we're talking BMO for the actual soccer, the practice facilities, housing athletes, housing all the support personnel, all of the ancillary things that you're talking about, the game day events? How many different venues are you and the staff there having to coordinate to make sure that everything is going on a daily basis the way that it should during this month that is going to bring the world to Toronto?
Yeah, some of the things you've mentioned there in terms of locations are actually responsibility of FIFA. So host city, aren't sort of linked to them directly. So as a host city, we are, of course, responsible for getting the stadium ready. And in this case, probably mid-May, we will literally sort of hand the keys of the stadium over to FIFA, who will then take over the operations. We have, as you mentioned, we have a training site, which in the case of Toronto, we needed to build one new pitch and the field house and amenities that go with that pitch. And we chose to have our training site at a large urban park in Toronto that we're very proud of, because that training site will be one of our legacy items post-tournament and is part of a 10-year master plan of redevelopment. So we're excited that we could tie that into a priority of the city that already existed, and we'll support that. And then we'll be hosting our FIFA Fan Festival in a location, it's called Fort York and the Bentway, in sort of the downtown core of Toronto, a short walk from the stadium, actually. So those are the main ones we're managing as a host city. And then things like team hotels and and FIFA guests and others coming from FIFA are managed by FIFA themselves.
All right. So I know that you probably have somewhere in your office, you've got the 4 foot by 6 foot, probably wrapped around 2 walls, the dry erase board that's got all of the different things and the arrows and all the different colored markers and all this kind of stuff when it comes to-do lists. Might be on a Google Doc, might be on LegalPad, kind of like what I still do these days. Where is that to-do list, and how are you in the process? You mentioned a couple of dates with BMO and such, but where are you on the road of crossing off everything on this list, getting ready for something that is only 7-8 months away?
Yeah, that countdown clock is ticking away. There's no question about it. And myself and the team and those partners and stakeholders working with us are certainly feeling that. Lots to do, not going to lie. We've got, as with any big event, there's always, the stuff that comes at the end. But we've also accomplished a lot. We've really, I'm really proud of some of the promotional things we've done. We had an excellent 1 year to go celebration here in Toronto, a public event that was very well attended, people showing up with their favorite jerseys on, celebrating all things football, which really kind of, was heartening for us to know the type of support we're going to see in Toronto and the energy and excitement around having this event in our city. In terms of like big items, I think that the two kind of key, well, there's probably more than two, but a couple of the key ones that come to mind for sure is we are doing a capital project at the stadium. To meet FIFA requirements, we actually have to increase the seating capacity. The stadium currently holds about 28,000, and we need to be at a minimum of 45,000 as a host city for a World Cup. So we are adding temporary seating to our stadium to get us up to that capacity. And we're doing a host of other upgrades and things at the stadium that, again, will be legacy items that will improve fan experience post-tournament. So we are complete with phase 1 of that capital project and just launching phase 2, which is really steel starting to rise for the structures for the temporary seating. So that's been a massive project that really has one of the things that kind of had to start day one because we needed the runway to finish that project off. The second big item for us here in Toronto, and you may have heard about it on the news, is our traffic. We have, crazy traffic and transportation congestion here in Toronto. And so early on, we brought on a transportation consultant to support us. And we have a very strong table of transportation experts, including here at the city, the consultant that I spoke of, some provincial transportation providers, et cetera, so that all the players are around the table. And so our transportation and mobility strategy is something that's been in the works for a long time too. One of the first things we started. And then big elements coming up are Fan Festival. We really want to have an amazing Fan Festival for residents here in Toronto, but also people visiting from outside. Really want it to be a central place of celebration and fun and safe and secure and all those good things that an event should be. And so there's a lot of work to still be done on that element as well.
Okay, so you mentioned transportation. That's something that here in our base in Atlanta is something that has to be tackled as well. But the infrastructure, the transportation infrastructure, at least in public transportation, is in place where you can hop on the elevated trains, the MARTA train, as it's called here, the rapid transit, and you can go from northern suburbs. You can come from the airport, go straight into downtown. You can go from east to west and come into downtown, where it's hubbed right there in the middle. For those that don't know what TTC can do and where it is when it comes to the integration, I'll get to the QEW and the traffic there in a second. But when it comes to TTC itself, where does it fall in the plan to make sure that everyone can get from point A to point B and get to Fan Fests, get to the Fort, get to BMO? Where does TTC work in all of this?
Yeah, so the TTC in Toronto, and it's Toronto Transit Commission, is where TTC comes from. So that, their fleet of vehicles include underground subway, includes above ground buses, as well as streetcars. So there's a whole circuit and a number of different routes that come from various points and directions across the city, north, south, east, west. And so we are working very closely with the TTC to both manage volume capacity. We're changing a couple of platforms near the stadium so that we can increase sort of access to the streetcar in one area that's kind of a critical point. We want to be able to not just have a stop point that can accommodate maybe a couple of streetcars, but one that can accommodate 4 or 5. So we're revising one of the platforms for the streetcar. And then similar to how you've described, John, we have a commuter train coming from suburbs, both east and west of Toronto, called the GO train. That really is our commuter train coming into the city. And so Metrolinx, which is the provincial transportation organization, manages the GO. So they're at this table as well. In terms of planning and execution. And then we also have a train service called the UP, above rail or above ground rail, that comes from the airport to and from the airport right into downtown. So there's a number of players, as I mentioned, at this planning table that all are managing capacity. And one of the interesting things that we're, I guess sort of the next big kind of nugget of information we need to refine and continue to build our transportation plan are the match times, which of course we'll be getting coming out of the draw that happens on December 5th.
You mentioned GO, you mentioned Metro, you mentioned TTC, and I mean, this is something that is going to be an impact for the entire Golden Horseshoe. I mean, this is literally from everybody. The second you cross the Peace Bridge, you're at Niagara Falls, you're making that big sweep, you're coming through Hamilton, you're coming into the GTA. This is something that is going to be impacting this entire region. Has there been any numbers come out about how many folks you're anticipating during this month, whether they're there to watch matches or not, economic impact? What are any of those numbers come to the fore for projections yet?
Yeah, the expectation is around, and these are probably need to be sort of updated, and I'm sure will be after the draw is done and we know what countries are going to be competing in Toronto. but sort of older, I guess, or previous estimations have us seeing about 300,000 visitors coming into the city. And of course, that doesn't include residents who, as you've mentioned, would be coming in from, various places in and around the Golden Horseshoe. So it's a, significant increase to volume. We also know there's going to be other events happening. Toronto's a big city. There's lots going on. There's other things happening during this time period. So we're working with a lot of other partners around the other events, concurrent events that will be taking place, how we manage those from, do any times need to shift? If it's a smaller event or even a larger one, can we, shift location a little bit to stay away from the key hubs that will be extremely busy for World Cup? So there's a lot of integrated planning going on with, not just transportation, but with other, event providers in the city as well.
How many different folks, when you are at this table with all the stakeholders, how rectangular is this table? How I mean, are you at are you at the Coliseum? It's like you got to tell the Marlies. It's like, no, look, we need the space here. We need the space with all of these stakeholders to hang on to this meeting. Push your match back a little bit. How many folks are we talking about at this long rectangular table where you're sitting there and having to coordinate all these different folks and agencies and shareholders and stakeholders? How many folks are we talking that you have to integrate here?
Yeah, good question, John. I actually don't know the exact number, but I can tell you it's very extensive and comprehensive and complicated, right? Like you've just hit it. This is a complicated, a complicated structure and a model on a big event of this size and scope. And one of the things that's a key part of my role is to make sure that we bring the right people to the table, and that we're all sort of aligned and going in the same direction. So we have a number of small sort of working groups, right? There's a working group focused on transportation, a group focused on marketing communications, a group focused on, revenue generation, a team that's focused on the capital project at the stadium, a team that's focused on fan festival. So, and bringing all the right players to those individual smaller teams. And then we meet sort of as an overall operations with the key leads from those groups regularly to bring all the folks in so that there is this bigger picture lens that, those smaller groups who have a very specific task and focus know that they're part of a bigger picture, and whatever they're planning needs to tie with the next group and the next group. So it's sort of integrating all those sort of very focused plans into one larger plan that sees the event as a whole be a success.
How daunting a task is it with all of these subcommittees and subgroups and rectangular tables that go through the horizon and start at the start at Skydo and work their way to the Air Canada Center and the post office here? I mean, how many different subcommittees are we talking here?
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, our organizational chart is extensive, and our model here in Toronto, which may be different. Your listeners might be hearing different models from different cities. The secretariat group specifically, is quite small that we have here at Toronto, but the model is very much one where we're tapping into the expertise of people either within the city or externally to the city. So, the core secretariat team is part of facilitating, bringing in the experts from transportation, from waste management, from legal, from marketing and communications, and on and on. And so we're tapping into expertise that already exists here at the city. And this has really been identified as, senior leaders at the city as obviously a priority. It's a big investment from a financial perspective. And so it's been, it's Team Toronto. We might be a secretariat kind of leading the delivery, or leading the charge on the planning, but the delivery model is one that is truly a Team Toronto approach.
How much capital investment are we talking here? Whether it is the expansion of BMO by 50%, roads, infrastructure, the TTC that we were talking about, any clue as to published figures as to how much capital investment has been made by the Ontario government, City of Toronto, all these different stakeholders to make sure that this is going the way that they want it to go?
Yeah, our investment at the stadium is about 125 million, and then we've got investment at Centennial Park, as I mentioned, for the training site as well, of about another 25. So, we're in the range of 150 to 160 on capital projects for stadium and training site. And then, there's been some of that investment, as part of other city plans in some of these other areas. So if there was a plan to, upgrade one of the streets and TTC locations at one area, that has been built into some of the city planning as preparation. And again, that sort of Team Toronto approach for the tournament.
What has been the most pleasant surprise about this process to this point, where we're 8 months away from action actually happening at BMO? Has there been something that you sat there, it was almost like a eureka moment of like, oh, wow, that's really cool? What's been the most pleasant surprise of this process?
Yeah, one that I'm really, thanks for asking that. It's good to talk about some of the great things happening and the things we're proud of. But one of the interesting things that's recently happened is, of course, we're going to be, tapping into amazing volunteers, as any major event does. And I'm sure all of the host cities, I think all of the host cities are, and we certainly are here in Toronto as well. And volunteer registration is online. FIFA are very engaged in that. They've created a really interesting sort of brand for the volunteer program, and have really, been supportive in creating an on-site online training, all of those things. So I think registration opened at the end of August. And of course, we promoted that across all of our social channels and other places here in Toronto. And then I think it closed early October. And we had over 248,000 people register to volunteer. And yes, you heard right, almost 250,000 people. And that was pretty extraordinary. Like when you're kind of thinking, we don't have a massive marketing budget here in the city for this event. And sometimes there's comments about, are you guys really getting the word out? And we don't see a lot of stuff and all these kinds of things. Well, 250,000 people took the time to register online and are willing to give of their time and talents. And they're excited enough to give up time and talents to be part of this event. So somewhere somebody's knowing something about it. So that was a real win for us. And I think we all sat back and went, wow, this is super cool. Like for me, having been involved in sport my entire career, it was a real, moment where you sort of go, hey, that's part of our Canadian culture. It's part of our culture that we volunteer and we step up and we get engaged in community and we want to be part of these big events. And, sport in Canada does not happen without volunteers. And we were the highest registration number of volunteers out of the 16 host cities. And interestingly enough, Vancouver was second. And so to me, that does really speak to a Canadian culture of volunteerism, of supporting sport, of wanting to get involved and be part of these big events in our communities. So that's a really exciting one that we're really proud of. And I think is a bit of an indicator of some other things, that just the interest, bottom line, the interest in this event.
And what I'd like to do is put a bookmark right there in our discussion, because we want to come back and visit one more time as we turn the calendar and get a lot closer to the games actually happening. We want to come back, do a bit of a check-in, see how you're doing, see if you need any cold compresses or anything, or if you need to, if anybody needs like the Theraguns or anything because of typing and being hunched over, things like that. We'd love to come back and touch base and find out how things are progressing as we get closer and closer to the World Cup on the 26th side of the calendar. I can't thank you enough for being this open and honest about the process. Look forward to asking more questions, finding out more things, and getting ready for a 26. Thanks for dropping by the morning show.
Happy to share, John. Look forward to talking to you again.
Sharon Bollenbach, the the executive director of the Toronto committee for the World Cup in 2026, and we want to thank them for giving us the opportunity to catch up with her and find out how they are navigating all these different things that you have to navigate to get into this World Cup situation. So all the things, we're going to be keeping an eye out and keeping an ear out for all that stuff as we go forward. And it's great to be able to touch base with each of these bid cities, these host cities, and find out what it's like for them as they get ready. Because like we were mentioning, it is basically 7 months before the World Cup starts. And so we're going to try and catch up with as many of the different host cities as possible. And we can't thank Toronto enough for helping us out with that. Now, let's get into news and juice boxes and everything else before we get out of here. And it'll be kind of a rapid fire thing. Once again, thanks to the World Cup Secretariat in Toronto, FIFA World Cup 26 Secretariat for the City of Toronto. Thanks to all of them for helping us out. Thanks to Truett McConnell for letting us catch up with them there. Thanks to Kaylor Hodges for catching up with him in Birmingham about the USL Championship. And also thanks to KCD before she heads out for the holidays. So KCD, Kaylor Hodges, David McDowell, Sharon Bollenbach, to get everything squared away to this particular point. Now, let's get you into Champions League, let you know what's going on today with juice boxes and such. Now, we're still in the league phase, and last night we went over the numbers as they kind of exist heading into today. So 2 matches at 12:45 in the league phase. Then you have 7 that are in the league phase at 3 o'clock. Probably should golasso that. And so you'll have an idea as to what's going on with all 7 at the same time. The 2 at 12:45. Benfica favored at a plus 106 at Ajax, who's a plus 247, draws a plus 264. Galatasaray favored at home at a minus 141 against Royal Union at a plus 358. Those are your 12:45. Right now, the 3 o'clocks, Bodo Glimt, an underdog at home. Remember, we talked about it last night, should be snowing, maybe an inch on the ground, temperatures in the low 30s Fahrenheit, not Celsius. Low 30s Fahrenheit at Bodo Glimt. Bodo Glimt to plus 209. Juve visits at a plus 121. The intrigue will be there for that one, but Juve is favored. Chelsea and Barca, that one right now at Anfield is a plus 122, and Barca is a plus 202, and your 90-minute draw is a plus 283. Dortmund on the minus side at a minus 120, hosting Villarreal at a plus 311. Also, it is Manchester City and Bayer Leverkusen. Manchester City is a minus 370. Big favorite at home, Bayer Leverkusen, a plus 864. It is Marseille and Newcastle. Marseille, a dog at home. Newcastle favorite at a plus 141. Napoli, a minus 370, hosting Karabag. That one has really spread at least 100 juice boxes both directions from last night. So in the last 13 hours, Napoli is now a minus 370. Karabag is almost a plus 950 in the composite, and your draw is a plus 497. Slavia Prague and Athletic Bilbao. Slavia Prague is a dog at home at a plus 213. Draws a plus 231, and Bilbao is a plus 134. Looking at what to watch, where to watch, and how to watch it, just so we can navigate everything that's going to be out there today. We'll get into news in a sec. And it is on CBS Sports Network, Ajax and Benfica at 12:45, Marseille Newcastle at 3. CONCACAF Caribbean Cup is on FS2. The doubleheaders at 4 and 6. Defense Force and Cibao is at 4. Universidad O&M is at 6, along with, and they play Mount Pleasant Academy. 2 to NA, Ajax Benfica, and they opt for Chelsea and Barca at 3 o'clock. Unimas has Ajax Benfica at 12:45. Univision, Chelsea, and Barca at 3. Paramount Plus has all 9 of your matchups, both at 12:45, and the 7 at 3 o'clock. English Championship has Tuesday football. Middlesbrough, Coventry at 2:45. Watford and Preston North End at 2:45. Southampton and Leicester is at 3. So that's what to watch today when it comes to activity overseas. You have nothing going on in the colleges until Friday, and that's the quarterfinals in Division I. That is Duke, Washington, Stanford, Michigan State, Florida State, Ohio State. That starts everything in Division I on Friday. Obviously, NAIA is positioned for next week at the championship sites, and Division II and Division III. We're trying to catch up with our friends at Emory and find out as they are navigating as well now with both men's and women's teams in the Final Four. So that's your college activity today and what to watch today as well. Now, let's get into some of the news and notes. And we talked about what happened last night late. 1 goal on the board, that's all you needed. San Diego FC advances. They're going to take on Vancouver. They're going to host Vancouver. That is going to be on the weekend with your Eastern Conference final and your Western Conference final. The times have been decided for those, and it is going to be Saturday at 6 and 9. Messi and friends right now, minus 196, hosting at New York City at a plus 421, draws a plus 367. San Diego at home, and remember, traditionally they are worse at home than they have been on the road this year. San Diego FC a plus 125, Vancouver a plus 188. Your 90-minute draw right now is a plus 252. So keep an eye on that as we go. And right now, that's your rundown for MLS and their Final Four. Idrissa Gueye has apologized for slapping a teammate and getting a red card yesterday. Everton did beat Manchester United. We're waiting for the new episode of the 3D, and that is with Drew Dickinson and a special guest to discuss what happened yesterday on Monday Night Football. But Idrissa Gueye he's applauded by his teammates for apologizing for slapping a teammate. So he slaps a teammate, and he apologized immediately, and his teammates applaud him for apologizing immediately for slapping a teammate. So there's that. Let's see. So FIFA has deepened Saudi ties with $1 billion deal to fund global football infrastructure, from Paul McInnes at The Guardian. We didn't get into this yesterday. FIFA has announced the creation of a partnership being pledged to fund the development of infrastructure across the globe. Game's governing body announced that it had signed an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, with the Saudi Fund for Development that would lead to it offering discounted loans for the construction and rehabilitation of stadia and other infrastructure. Under the arrangement, priority for any loans will be given to developing nations. In a statement, FIFA said the new partnership would, quote, seek to support national governments in designing, financing, and building modern multi-sport venues. Funding was needed, according to Gianni Infantino, to build the kind of stadia that would enable countries to stage FIFA-approved tournaments. Sentences after that, only the latest after the addition of the latest edition of the relationship with the FIFA and Saudi Arabia, hosting the Men's World Cup in 34. Aramco is a major worldwide partner in a new 4-year investment. So that is the latest with the international activity. Paul Pogba, once again, after 2 years, is back. He got a cup of coffee with Monaco on the weekend. And you have, let's see, I'm trying to check and see if there's any other stuff that is going on. We mentioned Rangers sacking the top 2 in their front office. Middlesbrough have appointed a 37-year-old manager to boost their push to promotion. Kim Hellberg. Borough is going to pay £250,000 to bring him from Hammarby. Swansea have appointed, missing out on Hellberg, so they are appointing a manager as well. So Swansea have appointed Vitor Matos to take in the 37-year-old from the Portuguese second-tier club Maritimo, where he took his first head coach's role back in June. Spent 5 years as the elite development coach at Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp, and has worked at Porto and in China. Taking the tour once again, I'm checking to see if there's anything that we might have missed in the morning. Morning Pars, morning Ricky, morning Kefsey, morning Abby. And it's great to see all of you, and thanks for hanging out with us here on an Information Tuesday. So it's all information all the time today. So trying to see if there's anything else that we might have missed. Let's see. The Liverpool parade crash trial is underway. David Moyes. Yeah, I forgot to mention this. David Moyes, after Idrissa Gueye was sent off in the 13th minute for slapping Michael Keane, post-match press conference, David Moyes said he was pleased that they were, quote, fighting as it showed me that they cared, end quote. If we hadn't got that fight and resilience like they showed, we never would have got through the rest of the game, he said. So Keenan Dewsbury Hall scored 17 minutes later, first time they won a game at Old Trafford in the Premier League since 2013. So David Moyes is down with the fighting, apparently, between teammates. So he's cool. He's cool with them fighting, I guess. As long as they win, he's cool with them fighting. So we'll find out what the latest is with them there. But yeah, so big 3 points for David Moyes and Everton, and they, I think, are 1 point now behind Manchester United in the standings right now in the Premier League. So Arne Slot apparently has had his pre-match press conference discussing their recent run of form. He says, quote, "I would describe it as ridiculous almost. Something I did not expect to be in. Not at any club I was going to work at, let alone Liverpool. That is unbelievable. If you can find an excuse, you'll never find enough excuses to make you perform like this. Unexpected for the club, for me and everyone. But I'm working at a club where if you need to face it, this is the best club to face it. The harder it gets at a club like this, the more we are together to achieve the things Liverpool usually achieve. Difference. Conceding far more." They asked what the difference was last year and this year. "Conceding far more goals than last season." Duh. "The amount of goals we've conceded and the amount of goals from set pieces is close to ridiculous for a club like us. The biggest one is the goals we concede from open play. We are still able to generate enough chances to get a result," end quote. "In order to stay calm, I don't find that difficult to do in trying to stay calm. Most people describe me as a calm person. The situation is not really nice, I can tell you that. It is not nice to lose. To be honest with you, I would not expect to come into this situation. You would never expect it. You can constantly use facts and figures. Let's just see how it goes. It's lower than expected at a club like Liverpool. I take the responsibility and feel guilty for it. We're busy working on it. We're not just used to being successful. There are also times when we are not. We'll put extra effort in and we will try to lead by example." Also discussing player match fitness. Arne Slot discussing Joe Gomez, one of the 5 defenders we have. He had an injection last week on his knee. That is normally not because you don't feel anything. Along with the decision to play Szoboszlai, this is almost also to do with him not being completely fit, although he is in the group tomorrow as he was on Saturday, but he wasn't able to train every single time. And Arne Slot also mentioned that they have to help themselves defensively once again as they're getting ready. Spoke about it less than an hour ago as they were getting ready for their matchup against PSV Eindhoven, and that is tomorrow. So Flirts, Connor Bradley, Jeremy Frimpong, all absent from Tuesday's open training ahead of the matchup against Eindhoven. Wirtz is the only player who had a chance of returning from a muscle problem that he picked up on international duty, not with the rest of the squad for the lunchtime open session. Bradley and Frimpong still 2 weeks or more away from potentially being available. So Szoboszlai and Curtis Jones shared the duties in the loss to Forest. Poor results and weak defensive performance have made a case for Joe Gomez, primarily a center back who can play on the right to start. Slot has been cautious with the 28-year-old, completed a full 90 minutes only twice since Boxing Day, and his only start since getting injured in the FA Cup defeat to Plymouth Argyle in February came in a Carabao Cup win over Southampton. Liverpool have lost 8 and won just 3 in their last 11, all comps. 2 of those victories in Champions League against Eintracht Frankfurt and Real Madrid. Slot side 8th in the Champions League table, 3 points behind leaders Bayern Munich, and in the final spot for the automatic qualification for the last 16. So Liverpool has their big press conference today as they were getting ready for Wednesday and the matchup against PSV Eindhoven. So that's Liverpool saith all of that quote. So that's what Liverpool was discussing this morning after the open practice. And so we mentioned David Moyes' initial response post-match. He has now officially apologized after he said what he said. So he officially apologized and said that there is no place for it for that kind of behavior. So David Moyes, he went one way and then sorry, my bad. Take it back. David Moyes said what he said. Idrissa Gueye has issued a public apology saying that there's no justifications for his actions. So Sheffield Wednesday has now been permitted by the EFL to make a signing with 3 buyers in the takeover frame. Once again, remember, they were deducted 12 points. They're 17 from safety. Duncan Watmore, Nathan Redmond have been training with the club. Rob Dorset says from Sky, given special dispensation by the EFL to sign another player despite them being in administration and under a league-imposed transfer embargo, former Leeds United defender Liam Cooper signed at Hillsborough last week despite interest from elsewhere. Sky now has been told Wednesday's administrators have been authorized to bring in a second new recruit because there are 6 injured players in the squad and the prospect of a number of other players leaving for AFCON in the next few weeks. Duncan Watmore, former Millwall, Sunderland, Middlesbrough forward, and ex-Burnley, Southampton, Birmingham winger Nathan Redmond have been in training and their potential signings. No deal yet advanced with either agent. That there are credible offers on the table from 3 separate buyers who want to take over at Hillsborough. The administrators from Begbie's trainer have been given extra time to further interested parties to finalize a bid before they close the market. Hoped by the end of next week, administrators will be in a position to grant preferred bidder status to one potential buyer who they feel offers the best proposition to take Wednesday forward and offer long-term stability. And once again, deducted 12 points after being placed in administration back in October. 17 points from safety is where they are right now. So that's the latest on Sheffield Wednesday as we get ready for everything there. So I've checked that paper. Let's see, what other papers am I missing here before we find out what else is going on. But yeah, keep an eye out for Champions League. All of that stuff. That's all the matchups today. 2 at 12:45, 7 at 3 o'clock. And it will be that same way again tomorrow. So it will be a way to keep an eye on what's going on with the Champions League in their league phase, and we'll keep an eye out for everything going on there. Birmingham unveiled their new stadium. 62,000 is what they're anticipating for the new stadium in and of itself, and with the spires that they have in and around the stadium, 2, 4, 6. 8, looks like 8 spires that the stadium is supposed to be ready for the 30-31 season. Estimated cost £2.5 billion. 12 chimneys, not just 8, but 12, bigger than Anfield and Emirates with a capacity of 62,000. And the word from the club is supposed to be that it will echo the brickworks that were once there on the site and feature a lift to Birmingham's highest, meaning elevation bar, retractable roof, movable pitch, concerts and other sporting events. And apparently they want to make it so seen that you would be able to see it from 40 miles away. 40. They want those chimneys to be seen on a clear day forever. So the plan is 62,000 seats, 12 chimneys, £2.5 billion, and seen from basically France. One of those kinds of things that's attached to what we're seeing in the world as well. One other note, and it's also somewhat Jason Stevens based, where you now have in the MCOs, well, we know how we discuss MCOs with our friend Jason Stevens. Apparently, Southampton owners Sport Republic, as we go into the economics of soccer, Sport Republic set us for formal talks to acquire a controlling stake in Levski Sofia in Bulgaria. On November 14th, the company sent out a formal letter to PFC Levski outlining a proposal and desire to discuss the next steps. A few days later, Levski's president, Nasko Sirikov, sent a reply to Sport Republic confirming the club's readiness to enter into negotiations. Levski would become the 5th club in the multi-club model after Southampton, Turkey's Göztepe, Valenciennes of France, and Mali's FC Kora. The official letter from Sport Republic expressed a clear vision, also referenced previous discussions, highlighted the benefits of integrating Levski Sofia into the structure. It would provide, quote, immediate access to our wealth of industry experience, specialized scouting systems, best operating practices, and further enhance the development of the club. So basically, it's like, we got stuff in place that could help you out, and you need to be a part of our group. Firm proposed a meeting to arrange and to conduct a legal, financial, tax analysis, meaning due diligence, after which they would formalize the acquisition and investment offer in the club. Levski Sofia's management has expressed readiness to proceed with talks and has proposed the formation of negotiating teams. And so keep an eye on Levski Sofia and Sport Republic, and we'll find out what it looks like there in just a little bit. So keep an eye on all that stuff, and we will obviously keep an eye out for anything and everything that's attached to the economics of sport, like we always do. So I'm trying to see if there's anything else that I might have missed last night that we need to get into before we send everyone on their way and we get you ready for anything and everything going on in the world of soccer today. And we'll be back at it again, 9:05 tomorrow. So once again, remember, tomorrow it is Tyler joining us pre-Thanksgiving. We'll find out what's going on with Tyler. We will also find out what's going on at Life University on the men's side as they are chasing after a title in the NAIA tournament. And Nico Moreno joins us to find out what is on his mind as we leave from the Final 8 to the Final 4. Seattle is supposed to have their postseason press conference availability today, and they should be discussing their player decisions coming up. So we'll have the Seattle player decisions, getting into the Final 4, all of those things with Nico tomorrow at 10:30. Once again, no show Thursday, but then Friday, we're going to check in with Life University on the women's side. We'll find out what's going on with Major League Soccer as they prep for the Final 4, and we will also check in with Nino Torres Friday morning at 10:30. The Power Hour gets split to Wednesday and to Friday this week because we have no show on Thursday because we'll be on the road and we will be attending the Thanksgiving family dinner miles away from the studio here in Atlanta. That's another go-round of SDH AM. Once again, thanks to David McDowell, head coach of the women's side at Truett McConnell. Thanks to Sharon Bollenbach, the executive director for the FIFA World Cup 26 committee in Toronto, getting all of that intel as we start that series here on SDH. Also, thanks to Kaylor Hodges in the USL show. Thanks to KCD, and where she be hopefully will be safe and a safe environment where she gets there safely, gets to have a lot of food and a lot of fun and hang out with her dad. So that is another go round of the show today. Back at it again in less than 22 hours. And since it is the end of the show, that means that I get to do this, and we'll be back at it again tomorrow morning, 9:05 Eastern, day before Thanksgiving. But we got a lot of stuff to talk about in the colleges, a lot of stuff to talk about in the pros, a lot of stuff to talk about with everything going on here in the world of soccer. And thanks to all of you guys for hanging out with us. Mucha platial, play it safe. Since it is the end of the show, means we get to do this. Back at it again, 9:05 tomorrow morning. See you.